With each passing moment, you make yourself more my servant. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Zareth Prevails. Folks, I wanted to talk about Sith Eternal and his issues. That is, he needs someone to help him beat other Galactic Legends. Obviously, other Galactic Legends need other someones. In this case, however, Sith Eternal is kind of unique in the pantheon that are the Galactic Legends, in the sense that he only needs one character to help him usually for the counters that he's doing. I very rarely run him with more than one character, and when I do, it's usually only two. This works in 3v3 and 5v5, but we're going to talk about 3v3 a little bit more, just because 3v3 is the season that's coming up, and that's the example I'm going to show you guys. But that said, it works in 5v5. You can find all kinds of examples of that in my counter sheet. If you look in the video description to this video or any of my videos, you can find links to that, and you can find all kinds of examples of Sith Eternal plus either Armorer or Watt taking these guys down. However, it isn't like Watt and Armorer aren't the exact equals. Like, they both do specifically amazing things that are distinct from each other. On the surface, each of them gives the Sith Eternal the ability to recover 30% of his protection, like heal 30% of his protection each time he takes a turn. But it goes deeper than that, and it's important that you select the right character in order to get the best results. And so I'm going to show you guys an example. Then I'm going to show you guys the pros and cons via some really amazing spreadsheetery. And actually, it's not even spreadsheets. I just wanted to say spreadsheetery. Because who doesn't want to say that? You guys should try it in the privacy of your own home if you don't believe me. But that being said, before we get started, just want to remind you guys, if you want to support the channel for free, please just hit that thumbs up button, leave a comment, do both would be amazing. I would really appreciate that. And if you wanted to hit that sub button, you haven't done it before, take a chance on me. I would appreciate it. Soon you will learn to appreciate me as Vader, as Vader has never said, but Jabba certainly has. He has to say things like that to make himself feel better. But I apparently do too. You guys will eventually, I'll grow on you. You'll see. In fact, I haven't grown for a long time, so probably just a lie. But I would love it if you guys would join us for dinner, which is something Vader did say. That being said, let's stop quoting things and actually jump into an example to show you guys what it looks like. Once I show you guys the example of how it works, then we're going to jump into all kinds of things. I'm even going to have a quiz at the end so that you guys can kind of understand all of the different criteria. We could put it in context. So let's do it. Okay, we've got... Whoa, were we in the game, or is this a video? What is this madness? We've got Sith Eternal and Armorer for this example taking on Rey, and typically Sith Eternal is going to be taking on either Rey or Jedi Master Luke. Those are the two targets he typically has. A lot of times he can also take down other Sith Eternals, though you have to be careful with a babysitter, because sometimes you'll give Link to the other Sith Eternal and that will hurt you. So this isn't actually a strategy guide on how to use Sith Eternal specifically against Rey. This is just talking about the pros and cons of using his babysitters. So you can see Armorer is already gone, and Armorer is just not going to live that long usually in this circumstance. Same with Watt, both of them died, but Armorer did give 2 stacks of Beskar ingots to Sith Eternal, and that is possible because she has her Zeta. Of course, that's important, but you can watch as each time Sith Eternal takes a turn, 30% of his protection is regenerated. So even after he gets into his ultimate, he gets to regenerate all of that awesomeness, and we can keep moving along. Does his ultimate, kills L3, relinks on Barriss, and keep in mind, each time he relinks, he's gaining 30% or healing 30% of his max protection each time. So Obviously, she does her damage. He doesn't die. He would need to have Sith Eternal modded to be super healthy, like 170k base. That's before he gains anything from either armor or the Watt, the Watt. And as you can see, we took down this Rey with very little problems. 51 banners out of 54, because this is 3v3. And remember, this works in 5v5. You just have to be a little more discriminating as well. So, let's go into the thumbnail overlay here real quick. That's what I call it. So, let's go over this little, the non-spreadsheetery things. Okay, so here's what Armorer does for Sith Eternal, and you can see I've cleverly highlighted the ones in red as good and the ones in black as bad, or at least kind of drawbacks. So we have this Armorer who gives. So here's the awesome thing about Armorer is Armorer gives 15% extra health whenever she puts those 2 Beskar ingots on Sith Eternal. So 15% extra health is amazing. That's something that Watt does not do. She also has, if you can wait around for a little bit, she has the potential to give crit avoidance and counter attack to Sith Eternal as well, if you can get that 3rd Beskar, which is not usually advised, but she can do that. She does not, however, dispel debuffs that happen to Sith Eternal. She doesn't have a bonus turn, so she can get derailed if someone is able to take her out before she takes a turn, that she can't apply those Beskar ingots, and Sith Eternal is probably screwed. She could be stunned, which is another thing, like she could be stunned, therefore she'd have to take a 2nd turn in order for Sith Eternal to get a turn, and it could be really bad. So she's not guaranteed a turn the way Watt is. Now, on the other hand, Watt, one of the awesome things about him is he gets his bonus turn, assuming he has his Zeta, which if you don't have his Zeta, you need to go do that right immediately, right now. He needs it. That is, I mean, that's what he does. He absolutely needs that. So if you unlock Watt, the second you do, put a Zeta on him. Now, the other thing that he is awesome about, he doesn't give that 15% extra health bonus, which is key sometimes, but he does help Sith Eternal dispel debuffs, which is really, really important. Now, that doesn't happen until Sith Eternal takes a turn, but things like shock that don't allow him to heal, or healing immunity if it's not locked, like from Jedi Training Rey, he can dispel all of that nonsense and continue marching. He does not give any bonus stats, he doesn't give any bonus abilities other than that dispel and the protection regen, and he can't and we can't understand his words. I'm not convinced he can understand his own words. He looks confused every time we see him. So, that being said, folks, let's actually go into the game, and we'll look at a couple things. I'll try to quiz you a bit. Whoa, we're in the game now. Madness. Okay, so here are the two, and obviously I have them relicked up and everything. You want Sith Eternal to have that high health, of course. Like I said, 170k if you can swing it. I actually think that pretty soon mine is going to be going slower, but he's going to get more health. He's going to get like 200k health, something like that, before all of this happens. So we've got Sith Eternal. We also, the Armorer, you can see, if you can get that second, so you start with 2 stacks of Beskar. So he always gets that 50% defense, which can be nice. Against Galactic Legends, it's not always super apparent, but then plus 15% max health is huge for how much health he has. Just that little extra bonus is really nice. Armor also gives the 30% recovery of protection at the end of his turn, and then if you can get the 3 stacks, which I'll talk about in a minute, you can get up to 100% counter chance, and he can't be crit. Now, against Rey, it doesn't matter. She doesn't crit him anyways, not in a significant way. However, against other opponents, it's nice not to be able to be crit. And so, the Armor, obviously that's a pretty nice thing. Now, we have Watt here, who does similar things. You can see let's see, the one that you want to give from him is the Bactoid Shield Generator. So at the start of his turn, Sith Eternal will recover 30% protection, so that's different than the armor who recovers it at the end. So you actually have a chance to get one extra banner if you use Watt, because he'll start his turn, recover his protection, and if it's maxed out, then he can take out his opponent, his Rey or Jedi Master Luke or whoever, and he'll have max protection. However, if he takes out Rey before, like with armor's buffs, then armor he just stops. When he kills Rey, it just stops, and he doesn't recover those 30%. Therefore, sometimes he doesn't get that extra banner. So that's a small thing to consider, but it is something to consider if the banners are tight. Now, to the tanks, he's not a tank, so he's not going to taunt, but he dispels his own debuffs when he takes a turn at the start of his turn. So Watt is nice, armor is nice, and one other configuration that is worth looking at, guys, if you really need that second stat or the third stack of Beskar from the armor, you can use, you don't have to use a Mandalorian. I like to use Gar Saxon because he's kind of a worthless guy. Sorry, Prime, but he is, and he is a tank, which means the Sith Eternal can make him taunt, and he's got bad enough health and protection a lot of times because I've modded him poorly, that he's going to get to the point where he can get to 60% health against a lot of Galactic Legends. And if another ally falls below 60% health, the armor gains a stack of Beskar ingots. So if your opponent is going to go, you know that your Sith Eternal is going to go right after or before Rey, you can force another tank to taunt, and therefore the opponent's going to hit Gar Saxon or whoever you choose, and therefore if you get him below 60% health, so that's kind of like you might want to put a lot of health on him and lower protection just so that he survives, because if he dies, if he just gets one shot, then she doesn't get it. He has to survive and get to sit below 60%. Then she gets that stack. Then she can immediately hand it to Sith Eternal. Otherwise, she needs to hand her 2 over to Sith Eternal and call it good. Now, let's go over a little quiz on who to take on what, and so that you guys can understand exactly what I'm getting at. So we have, when we can troubleshoot danger or spot danger and stuff, and things and stuff. So who are we going to take? Sith Eternal and armor, or Sith Eternal and Watt if we're facing Jedi Master Luke and the rest of this team? So answer to yourself, pause it if you need. I'm not going to pause very much though, guys. So against Jedi Master Luke, you got to be careful because he's got an AoE ability block, so you need to take Watt here. Because if the armorer goes after Jedi Master Luke, if Jedi Master Luke is gone and put ability block on armor, she cannot apply those Beskar ingots, and therefore Sith Eternal isn't going to get that extra healing and is probably going to lose. Plus, you want Sith Eternal to be able to dispel all those debuffs, including the ability block from Obi-Wan, for all the other ability block stuff. You want him to be able to, or debuff stuff, you want him to be able to dispel that stuff in order to do well against Luke instead of just doing basics. You want that to be dispelled. Now, next target, against Rey with the Hero Bros. Again, you want Watt, because Finn is usually way faster than armor is. Remember that Rey is going to be giving him an extra 30 speed. So whatever speed he is plus 30 is going to be, he's most likely going to be way faster than your armor, in which case he's going to pass his turn to Poe, and Poe can therefore stun armor. He has a stun. It doesn't matter how fast Poe is, because he'll just stun armor, and before armor gets her second turn, Rey is most likely going to use her whirlwind and kill the armorer. So you want to make sure you have Watt, so he gets his bonus turn, immediately puts that armor tech on to Sith Eternal, and then whatever else they do to Watt, who cares? You've already got the armor tech, you've used him up, and he's gone now. Now, next one, Rey versus IG and Kuiil, which is a pretty standard one. I know that my buddy Solo Base uses this lineup all the time in 3v3 because not a lot of things can counter it. And this one is a tricky one. You want, again, to use Watt, because armor can go. Armor might be able to go, but again, Ray is giving Queel another 30 speed. Queel is usually well over 300 speed to start with, so Queel's gonna go, and he could potentially stun armor, and therefore, once again, Ray's going to do the whirlwind and whack his head off, armor's head off, her head off. So don't want to use that. Next up is going to be Ray with Vander, Chewie, and L3. Now, this is one that you can actually use armor on because it doesn't matter. Like, Sith Eternal's going to be able to kill the ads. That's not an issue, but you don't want armor to get ability blocked or stunned right off the bat. And so L3 and Vander, they can do some damage even if they go first. You know, it doesn't matter if there's a pre-taunt. It doesn't matter how little damage you can do. Armor just wants to get those stacks of Beskar onto Sith Eternal, and therefore these two can just they're not going to stop armor from taking a turn. And that's the whole criteria that you're looking for. Armor needs to be able to take a turn that's meaningful, not just a basic attack. She needs to be able to use special to apply those Beskar. Against Jedi Training Rey and Holdo, this one's a little bit tricky. A lot of times you do need Watt because Jedi Training Rey can do her mind trick, which ability blocks and reduces turn meter on armor. And again, Rey is going to give her another 30 speed, so you want to avoid using the armor. However, you also need to be careful with Watt because she can apply healing immunity that is non-dispellable, which means that if she applies it at the wrong time, Rey gets her ultimate and Sith Eternal is weakened. He's not going to be able to heal himself with that 30% regeneration until he's taken a couple turns. You can get around that by using Link because that counts as 2 different turns and it can dispel him, but it still takes time to be able to regenerate, in which time Rey can maybe capitalize. So Jedi Training Rey is one you have to be very careful about using, and if you want to use both of them, you can. Remember, neither of them is actually going to be able to heal Sith Eternal, during the time that he has damage immunity, or healing immunity. The next up, Rey versus Enfys Nest and Amilyn Holdo. I don't know why I'm saying their entire name, but you can use armor here if you're careful. Usually Nest is going to, in this build, a lot of times Nest is still going to have tenacity, but if they're really fast and potent, there's the possibility Nest will go in and just try to stun the armor right away. If that happens, then you're probably screwed, but usually Nest leads off with her AoE, in which case armor doesn't care. It's just a daze, and that doesn't matter. Like, you can still get through it. It's not ability block, and therefore armor can be used here. And honestly, armor is nice against Rey because the extra health is really nice in case Rey has been ramping up her damage a little bit because of, if there's Watt involved, then she may actually end up ramping it up. Otherwise, if Rey's high damage, nice to have armor there to give that extra 15% health. All right, final example, folks. This is one we don't see too often anymore, but it still does happen sometimes. Han and Chewie, you guys can answer it, but I think you know the answer by now. You need Watt, and you got to be careful here. This is one that you have to be real dicey on, because if you use armor, of course, Han gets to go first. He could potentially stun the armorer and just kill her, or cause her to die eventually. But if you use him against Watt, he also gets a bonus turn, and he always shoots first, so he could also stun Watt before Watt could do it. Now, if Watt is fast enough to go after Han, Watt is going to get some speed from Sith Eternal, because Sith Eternal is a dark side character. If he gets that speed from Sith Eternal, then Watt is going to be able to potentially go before Han and Chewie get their second turns, and hopefully apply that tank tech. If not, you might be screwed. So you got to be real careful with this. You might want to take both of them against both of these guys. I'm not sure. You maybe just use a different counter. I don't know, guys. That being said, I am going to call it good. I hope you guys learned something. Let me know what I missed in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. And remember that in all things, Zareth prevails.